Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at the new legacy move in Pokemon Go for Tapu Lele, Nature's Madness. Now we've seen Nature's Madness be released to a different Pokemon previously, Tapu Koko, and it was so much of an improvement that a battler was actually able to hit rank 1 on the global leaderboards with Ultra League Tapu Koko. So it goes without saying, I'm very excited to see what Nature's Madness can do for Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele is a Psychic and Fairy type Pokemon with the moveset of Confusion, Psyshock, and now Nature's Madness. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at some practice battles in the Open Ultra League, testing out Nature's Madness on Tapu Lele. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty decent lead, Registeel into Galarian Weezing. Even if they have Overheat, I can tank it. Opponent goes for a Brutal Swing, so either they're baiting or they're running something like Play Rough. The Zap Cannon is going to connect. That does massive damage onto the Galarian Weezing. Weezing is going to fire off the Brutal Swing. They're now going to save switch into Shadow Feraligatr, and I'm going for the Zap Cannon to grab the shield before I bring in my own Gator. My opponent lets it go, and I end up switching into my own Gator to absorb the Hydro Cannon that they fire off with 1 HP remaining. And now I see they were looking to save all shields in the back for the XL Lantern. And Lantern could potentially be a bit difficult considering that I'm only able to hit for resisted damage here. So I'm going to throw it the last possible second, hoping my opponent decides to not commit to the farm down, but they will end up getting the full farm down. In comes the Registeel. I'm just going to use Registeel as a damage sponge at this point to absorb the energy, and hopefully Tapu Lele can sweep in the back. Registeel continues to farm. Lantern fires off energy. It is going to be the Surf. That is going to be enough to KO, and now it's all up to Tapu Lele. They have decent energy on the Lantern. I decide to let this through. It is only going to be the Surf, but that does quite a lot of damage. In comes the Weezing. Weezing will go for the Brutal Swing. I'm going to commit the shield and look for the farm down. Confusion gets the farm down. I have quite a lot of energy, and now I can go for the Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness does come with a guaranteed defense drop. Opponent commits the shield, but with the defense drop, I am able to get the Confusion farm down and take the win. Moving into the next match, hitting Registeel into Shadow Feraligatr. So a pretty good matchup for the Registeel, but you do have to keep in mind that as more shields are used, the Registeel's health can become a bit of an issue. I return fire with the Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon is going to be shielded up by the Feraligatr, and I've already taken quite a lot of damage. I don't have the greatest Registeel IVs. I do have the Raid rank 1, but of course you can get traded ones that have a lot higher stat product. Opponent sends in Ampharos trying for a Volt Switch snipe, but Registeel is barely able to hang on and fire off the Focus Blast. I'm going to send in the Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele cannot get the Confusion down. I did get the 1-turn switch in there. Opponent, oh my goodness, instead of going for back-to-back Brutal Swings, full sends the Zap Cannon. That's an incredibly important shield. In comes Feraligatr. I fire off Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness does big damage to the Feraligatr, and I decide that I do want to debuff whatever's in the back. So I am going to commit the shield on the Hydro Cannon, get the Confusion farm down. Let's see what they have in the back. It's Annihilape, and Annihilape is not going to have a good time. They're forced to shield the Nature's Madness. This would probably just KO from here. They're now debuffed. They're forced to throw. They throw on 6, so this very well could be an Ice Punch, and it is. And now they have no way of making it to a Shadow Ball before I can make it to the Hydro Cannon. So I can just send in the Shadow Feraligatr, and Feraligatr is thankfully able to clean up that Annihilape and take the win. Moving to the next match, what do you know, same leads as last game, Registeel, but this time into a regular Feraligatr. Regular Feraligatr is a lot less scary for Registeel, as the Hydro Cannons just don't do nearly the damage that they would from the Shadow. Like that Hydro Cannon, not going to do a whole lot. Opponent is going to switch into a Giratina. I end up throwing the Zap Cannon anyway, because I want to try and fish for a debuff here, and I do actually get the debuff. I'm more than fine tanking a Shadow Sneak and then looking to switch. Opponent, oh, they're not running Shadow Sneak. They try for an Ancient Power boost. Thankfully, they are unsuccessful, and now I can bank a Zap Cannon for later and send in my Feraligatr. Feraligatr farming up, making it to the Ice Beam, and it looks like that was a CMP tie. Ice Beam is super effective damage. Down goes Giratina, and my opponent will send in their own Feraligatr. But this is a bit uncomfortable for me, because my opponent has no incentive to shield here. They know a Zap Cannon can just knock them out, so having that Hydro Cannon land, it doesn't matter at all. They can just farm up to back-to-back charge attacks, and I would lose charge attack priority on the Registeel, so I decided to send in the Lele. Opponent blind throws the Hydro Cannon and gives me a Confusion for free. In the back, they have Skeledirge, and this is a massive problem. They were able to bait out the Feraligatr, and now I'm in trouble. I build up a ton of energy, go for the Nature's Madness, I get the shield, and of course that comes with the debuff. They were at 100 energy, I was expecting them to double Disarming Voice, so I make a catch onto Registeel, and now they're debuffed. I catch the Disarming Voice, maybe there's a chance. The Zap Cannon does get the debuff as well. That's going to allow me to barely hang on and make another Zap Cannon. Oh my goodness. That Skeledirge in the end game looked quite scary. Back in comes Feraligatr. Feraligatr is going to go for the Hydro Cannon. I think the Confusion should knock out here. Oh, it barely does not, but I do have that Psyshock ready to go. So Psyshock is going to pick up the KO onto Feraligatr, and we take the win. Moving to the next match, Registeel feasting on the lead. Oh my goodness, as it leads into a shiny Guzzlord. Got to be one of the best shinies in the game. Opponent is going to save switch into a Golisopod, potentially hoping for a Focus Blast catch, but it's unsuccessful, and they're forced to shield the Zap Cannon. I'm going to build up some energy and then send in the Shadow Feraligatr, as Shadow Feraligatr will be able to absorb this energy. Whereas I can't really afford to send in the Tapu Lele, because Tapu Lele, it is super frail. It would get absolutely torn to shreds by Shadow Claws. They go for another Liquidation. I'm at the back-to-back Hydro Cannons, and I believe that should be enough to knock out, even though they are going to be resisted. Hydro Cannon number 1 connects. I'm going to overfarm ever so slightly and go for Hydro Cannon number 2. That is going to connect onto Golisopod. In comes the Guzzlord. Guzzlord is going to get that farm down. They exit with quite a lot of energy, so they are going to be able to apply some pressure with a Crunch or a Brutal Swing. The opponent is running Brutal Swing. That is going to connect. In the back, I saw a Shadow Claw. So is it going to be Feraligatr? Yes, it is, and this is a bit uncomfortable for me until I see it's the non-Shadow Feraligatr. If it was the Shadow Feraligatr, I would be in trouble here, but since it's the non-Shadow, I can actually no-shield the Hydro Cannon, make it to the Zap Cannon, and I should be in a position where I can win this game. I actually go for an Undercharge on that Zap Cannon because I want to get a farm down to make it to a Nature's Madness versus that Guzzlord. I am able to get the farm down. In comes the Guzzlord. Guzzlord, the Dragon Tails are double resisted. It has no fast attack pressure here. They're firing off a charge attack, but I'm going to be able to make the Nature's Madness. This is double super effective damage, so this is going to be goodbye to the Guzzlord. So we do see the Tapu Lele being able to close, but it definitely needs like a shield advantage to put in that work. Picking up a bit of an interesting lead in the next match, Registeel versus Poliwrath. Poliwrath, of course, is hitting for super effective damage with the counters, but Scald is only going to hit for neutral, whereas I can hit for massive damage with the Zap Cannon, but the opponent waits the turn and makes a catch onto Ampharos. Beautiful, beautiful execution there by my opponent. And they're running the non-Shadow Ampharos, which means I don't know if this Focus Blast is actually going to knock out. The Focus Blast doesn't knock out. The Ampharos withstands the lock-ons. They're at the back-to-back Brutal Swing, so I'm just going to let it go. They go for a Thunder Punch. It doesn't knock out, and they're going to be firing off more energy. Very okay with me. This should be one Shadow Claw range, so the Volt Switch is not going to register, and a Shadow Feraligatr up energy can put in quite a lot of work. My opponent sends in the Poliwrath. I'm going to send in the Lele in the back. It's a Shadow Drapion, and this should more or less be game over for me. As Confusion, if you're going up against anything that has a dark subtyping, it's just going to be absurdly inflexible. I go for the Nature's Madness. That does a lot of damage. They are able to get that farm down. I can try and go for a Shadow Claw farm down, and maybe if I get to like 4 Hydro Cannons, I can do this. But with their ability to just go straight for the Icy Winds, I really don't see a path to victory here. I will go for the Hydro Cannon. They're going to commit the shield because, of course, they want to shield the moves that are going to do the most. And anything thrown before their Icy will do the most. So I'm able to call the Icy, but, oh man, I still need 3 more Hydro Cannons. Hydro number 1 does get shielded. With the Shadow Claws, maybe 2 more Hydros will be enough to KO. They do actually throw an Icy Wind, which does give me a Shadow Claw, but I have to double up and survive the counter afterwards, and unfortunately, I cannot get the double up, so I will lose the game. We've got Spice from the opponent in the next match, leading Registeel into a Shadow Staraptor, and it's a Sand Attack Staraptor as well. To be honest, I kind of forgot that this got Sand Attack, but a very cool Spice pick from the opponent. They go for the close combat. That hits for heavy damage. I go for the Zap Cannon as they send in Annihilate. This is very okay for me. I can now send in the Feraligatr and just throw after 7 Shadow Claws, but unfortunately, I I overtap. I make a huge mistake. I play to a CFP tie that I do not win. Just absolutely catastrophically poor play there. Oh my goodness. It hurts watching it back. And I didn't have to give up a shield there. I could have just thrown before they made the Shadow Ball, but instead, I put myself in a position where maybe this game is losable. The good news is they have Virizion in the back. The Registeel Shadow for Alligator core is extremely strong if you don't see mons like Virizion. Virizion, of course, is a huge core breaker for it, but I'm going to have it aligned against the Tapu Lele. In comes the Tapu Lele. They send in the Staraptor. These confusions are adding up. I'm going to be shielding up the fly, and I think I have to try and make a catch to win this game. I'm farming up energy with the Lele, the switch into the Registeel as they fire off their charge attack. It is going to be the fly. They will get the sand attack down, and now I need the confusion down. I do get the confusion down. Back in comes Virizion. They're firing off the Leaf Blade. Can I make it to the back-to-back charge attacks here? Leaf Blade does quite a lot. I do make the back-to-back charge attacks, so this should be a win. Psyshock gets the shield, and now I can go for the Nature's Madness, and Nature's Madness does deal some pretty substantial damage, and we're barely, by the thinnest of margins, able to take that game. We see a Core Breaker on the lead in the next match, leading the Registeel into a Shadow Gallade. Shadow Gallade is extremely scary. I'm going to be shielding up the Leaf Blade. Opponent now sends in a Tentacruel. Oh my goodness. And we are off to a very rough start in this game. The Hydro Cannon is going to connect. I'm going to continue to farm up with the Gator and go for the Hydro Cannon, winning charge attack priority as my opponent makes it to a Scald. If they don't get a debuff, I should be able to force a shield or swap here, which would be incredibly, incredibly nice. The Scald is going to connect, and I do get debuffed. And here, unfortunately, the game stutters a little bit. I don't get the Hydro Cannon. I would have loved to get the Hydro Cannon off, undercharge it slightly to set up a very nice farm down for the Registeel, but that does not happen. And now I'm in a very difficult position. I'm going to bank this energy on the Registeel, try and snipe with a confusion on the Tapu Lele, and I just have to hope that Lele can do well in the back. It's a Greedent, and unfortunately this is just not a win for me, as Tapu Lele down a shield is not going to be doing much of anything. The Nature's Madness is a really nice addition to Tapu Lele, and I could see if it got a better fast move in the future, Tapu Lele could potentially be interesting. Currently its options are Astonish, which is an okay move, but since it doesn't get same type attack bonus, it'll typically end up just being worse in the Ultra League, or Confusion, and Confusion is a fast attack that when Go Battle League started, it was a very strong fast attack, but over time, it's basically just been power crept out to the point where it's just not particularly good. You can't really think of any terrific meta mons that are running Confusion at the current moment, like maybe Armored Mewtwo, but that sees very, very little play in the Open Ultra League. So far, I'm liking the Nature's Madness edition, but Confusion, man. Confusion is definitely holding it back a bit. And hopping into the final match, leading Registeel into Greedent. Greedent staying in this matchup. So it looks like the opponent may be weak to the Regi. The Focus Blast connects. That does massive damage, and getting that damage means that it's now in a range where I could potentially knock it out with a Hydro later on. They're farming up so much energy with the Greedent. They try for the catch onto Annihilate. I'm able to hold on to the energy and then go for the Zap Cannon. The Zap Cannon is going to connect. I send in the Feraligatr, and as soon as I did it, I was like, oh, I had an opportunity for Tapu Lele to have a good matchup, and I didn't use it. I just have to really hope that Tapu Lele can do well in the back, or I'm going to be in trouble here. I commit the shield as they full send the Shadow Ball. I do have a Hydro loaded, and I just don't throw it. I should have thrown it. I could have won charge stack priority, forced a shield from the Greedent, but again, I guess I was just battling tired today or something. I don't know, but watching this back hurts. So now I'm a lot lower than I typically would be. In the back, it's a Shadow Zapdos of all things, and this could get tricky. Shadow Zapdos has massive damage output. I send in the Tapu Lele, and if they Thunderbolt, I think they can Thundershock down, but I'm going to call the bait. It is the Drill Peck. That does so much damage to Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele barely able to hang on, and I will be committing the shield as they go for the Drill Peck. And I could have gone for the Psyshock, but it gets its new move, so we may as well go for the Nature's Madness to secure the victory over the Shadow Zapdos. All in all, I do think that when it comes to Nature's Madness, it is a very nice addition to Tapu Lele. Like, Tapu Lele It's a very glassy Pokemon, much like Tapu Koko, so having an ability to guaranteed debuff the opponent's defense really helps Tapu Lele win in some of those more shielded scenarios. However, its fast move is still a big issue, so this is kind of step one in how to really make Tapu Lele a powerful Pokemon, but until it gets a better fast move, Confusion and Astonish, neither one is really going to cut it in the Open Ultra League, so while it's here, definitely worth grabbing one and just holding on to it, because if it does get a better fast attack in the future, it could be very interesting. Now, when it comes to Tapu Lele in the Master League, it looks like Astonish will probably be preferred compared to Confusion. I am very interested to see what it can do in the Open Master League, but I imagine it's still probably going to lag behind Tapu Koko, again, just due to the fact that Tapu Koko has a very good fast attack in that Volt Switch. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is extremely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.